Live we're now streaming live. Sweet, it's happening. The magic's happening. Morning, everyone. Let's look out the window and see what's greeting us. It's a bunch of gray skies. I was just boasting to Tyler about how good the climate here is in Victoria, but now I've proven that I'm a bit of a liar. So that's that. It's pretty gray. We're just heading into renewed lockdown measures here in British Columbia. So what that means is no gatherings of any sort with people that are not our family, our immediate household. So we can't even go and meet my mom and dad or hug them or anything like that. Masks are now mandatory in all public spaces, including outdoors, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just going to open a window as I'm talking. The experience I have through that is kind of twofold. One is, sweet, we're doing what we need to do. Like the numbers for COVID have been climbing, and despite sort of requests that people do things differently, it seems like they're still climbing. And so on the one hand, I'm kind of relieved that our government is giving us some direction and saying, hey, do this stuff. And then on the other hand, I'm like, oh man, I can't even hug my parents. I really want to hug my parents. This is annoying. And I can't go out and even have a distanced dinner with friends. So that mandate came out yesterday, and I've been going through my calendar seeing like, okay, what appointments do I need to cancel? What do I need to make happen? So I'm not going to share, typically I'd share some distinctions at the start of these conversations, but I really want to bring Tyler on shortly. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about him and why I was immediately inspired when he reached out, and then we'll bring him on. And the way this conversation today is going to go is he and I are going to talk for about 40 minutes, just about like what he's created, his business, his why, his what for, all of that sort of stuff. And then we're going to do a bit of coaching together. So you'll get to see both sides of that. So what inspired me immediately about Tyler was that he was game. And I have a lot of people reach out and say, hey, I really want to be on that podcast. Or people reach out on behalf of someone else and say, hey, I've got the perfect guest for you. And then I say, great, here's what that would look like. We're going to have that person share what they've got to share, and then we're going to dive into a coaching conversation. And usually that goes, it goes a very specific way, which is they say, awesome, let's schedule something. My assistant or I send them some dates, and then on the what happens is they write back and they're like, you know what, it turns out my guest thinks it's not going to be a good fit. And it's usually because there's a degree of vulnerability to being a yes to being coached that most of us don't want to lean into. And this is not something wrong. It's just the reality of the fact that vulnerability is sexy. We know it's a good thing because Brene Brown told us so. And people are like, yeah, vulnerable. So there's this buzz about it. Vulnerability is the new putting an E in front of a word. If we've gotten to that point, it's like, you got to be vulnerable. But what we would rather do is talk about being vulnerable rather than be vulnerable. And so most of the people that reach out, when they're confronted with that distinction, not because I say, here's a distinction, blah, 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 but just because the invitation is come and actually show up. Just come and actually like be in your own work with me. Let's be intimate together. Most people are like, nah. And Tyler was totally game, and just like a really delightful, really brilliant guy. So let's bring him on right now. Tyler, get your mic on, get your camera on, get over here. Let's start talking. I'll have a sip of this tea.
Again, no tea, buddy. We got to go.
I know. I've already made a mistake.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. And yes, it's absolutely true. I am game. Because you know what? I like to be the dumbest in the room. And people look at me stupid and they go, what do you mean dumbest in the room? I'm like, well, if I'm the dumbest in the room, then I'm learning. And if I'm learning, then I'm making my intelligence more and more essentially attributed to a better opportunity of success.
Dude, so what is your background? Like, show us your mug first so that you can flex. Look at that. He's got his own name on his mug. What is your background before you got into being a coffee mogul?
I don't know. 14, I had a really strong background in being a kid.
Right. Yeah.
I don't really have I mean, I don't really have a background. I started this company at 14 years old, door to door on a bicycle.
No
And
kidding.
yeah, and
Wow.
my father is the brains behind it. He's the scientist. He's a biochemist, and he's essentially a consultant for major corporations. But he started having stomach issues at a very my young age of 12, 13.
So hold on, let me just figure that out. So 14 is like grade 7, grade 8 thereabouts.
Yeah, grade 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
So most kids are like girls. For me, it was like, how do I play more Magic the Gathering and not get beat up? You're like, all right, I'm gonna go sell coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. So I my father came to me, and I liked coffee. I that's kind of how we bonded.
Hmm.
We bonded over coffee. And then he couldn't drink coffee anymore, and he pretty much told his doctor to go pound sand, and he figured out a way to not bloom the tannic and lipid acids in the roasting process.
So did he know that was the thing that was causing the problem?
Well, he knew that tannins and lipids are essentially an inflammatory acid, and they're found in all plant matter because it's used in photosynthesis.
Right.
And so, by not blooming the tannic and lipid acids, you're able to yield a neutral pH, and your body's not going to be affected by it.
Huh. So walk us through that. Like you're 14, your dad what comes home and is like, my doctor who's now going to pound sand. First of all, I can't believe you're making fun of the way I say things like fuck, and then you're dropping language like pound sand. But anyhow, your
Well,
dad
I mean,
comes
in
home.
America, pound sand is the way of saying fuck without fuck. But hey, you said it first.
So he comes home and he's like, all right, here's what's going on. And then how does this go from, like most people would, what a neat idea. We should totally make a coffee thing. And then like, remember 10 years ago when we thought about making a coffee thing? That was cool, but you guys actually did it. So how did that actually become real?
Um, well, I mean, okay, so let's kind of break that down. So
Yeah.
he's the one that said I can't drink coffee, so there's a problem.
Yeah.
And his whole entire life, he's built around problem solution. So he fixes problems, like he
Right.
fixes major chemical issues in like Lindy Oil and Gas, Syncrude. He works with Caltrans and ADOT and big people,
Uh-huh.
and he's the fixer, right? And so he fixes issues. So anyway, the point is that he fixed this problem, but we didn't really understand the value of it, and nor did anyone else. This is when Starbucks was at its all-time high,
Right.
and people were
What
drinking
what year would this
Starbucks
be?
2004.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so in 2004, people really didn't care about A, their health, or B. I mean, if you said 2004, if you said I'm a vegan, they'd be like, no, this is Earth. Like you're from what
Right.
planet? They didn't even know what vegan was. They didn't even know what alkaline was. I mean, there was a very small individual group that really cared about their health.
Right.
In 2016 is when we really saw the push, a strong, hard, very deliberate push to a healthy and more organic lifestyle across the world.
Uh-huh.
And that was because it was festering, all the way back from the early 90s.
Right.
But now if you say I'm vegan, they go, oh yeah, here's your menu. Not
Right.
what are you talking about? So long story short, he figured out when the tannic and lipid acids bloom. He went to an engineer, electrical engineer, mechanical engineer. They figured out what the Z-roasting process. It's our proprietary process that we use, and we use extremely hot air to roast each individual coffee precisely using computer technology so that there's no human error.
Uh-huh. Okay. And so the end result of that is that all those tannins, and I can't remember the word you were using, it started with lipid.
Lipid, yeah.
Okay, tannins and lipids get what, removed from the process? Is that, or they just
No,
don't
they don't.
bloom?
They don't bloom. They
Ah,
don't
got
bloom.
it.
So they stay dormant, and as long as they stay dormant, then your body does not see that as a inflammatory.
Uh-huh. It's kind of like, I mean, this will be a weird metaphor, but the difference between burning marijuana to smoke it versus vaporizing it. Whereas if you vaporize it, it reaches a certain level and you don't get the combustion, which then exactly, yeah, it doesn't cause quite the same damage to your lungs. Kind of along those lines, is that right?
Yep.
Got it. Okay. So at what point does this become like a business, like something you're actually doing?
So I'll never forget this very sweet lady. So I went door to door on a bicycle. That's how I started. And all I did was just hand out 2-ounce perk packs. We called them perk packs. And I asked for a name and a number. And I called this lady up and I said, "Hi, yeah, this is Tyler. And I gave you that coffee." And she goes, "Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Where do I get it?" I was like, "From me." "Okay, how much is it?" $1. And
there's no unit of what you get. It's just $1 is what it
was $1 for a pack because
right.
I did not know what I was doing.
Yes.
But the point is that there was a light bulb moment, and that light bulb moment essentially created a value to a stand that we're no longer in a conceptual process. We're now in a process, or we're now in an ability for people to want to pay for the product. So we're going out of conception and we're going into infancy. So now that we're in infancy, how do we grow that to adolescence, and how do we grow that to child, and how do we grow that to adult? We're an adult now. So I look at every business as a newborn.
Right.
When you start an idea, everything starts from a single idea. Like everything is essentially driven off of an idea. Then what you do is you figure out the benefits. And so before COVID, I was speaking around the country, and I would be interviewed and I would tell people my story, and then at the end I would walk off stage, and people wanted to talk to me because they were like, "How does this kid at 14 years old, now 30 years old, have a multi-million-dollar coffee business? Like that's crazy." And so I love talking to people. I love supporting people, and I love helping people. And I tell people all the time, when I sit down and talk to them, I say, "Okay, this is your idea. This is your concept. This is your product. This is your service. Let me ask you a question. Does it help?" Because I've learned at a very young age that you have to have something to bring to the market that actually is going to be viable and a desire to a problem.
Right.
There's not a single product or service in this world that has not succeeded by causing a better solution to a problem.
It's very in line with what your dad kind of made his life about, to use the way you described it.
Yeah, I mean, like this computer that we're having a conversation on, it's because if we go back 30, 40 years, it would be over the phone. Right. Well, now we want to see face to face. Okay, so we need to conceptualize that because we have a problem, we solution, problem, solution. We wanted to do, people want to have a car. And I use this analogy all the time. I go, Ferrari and Ford are the most opposite spectrums of a product, right?
Right.
Ferrari there's no value in owning a Ferrari except saying I have a Ferrari and I like to enjoy the drive it fast, and that's fine, and I think that's great. I'm a car guy, so would I like to have a Ferrari someday? Yeah, but I mean, Mercedes AMGs fill my need very well. The point is that that's not the point. The point is that it will get you there on time every time. What the difference is that a Ford is for everyone and a Ferrari is for a limited selection, but they do the exact same thing. They're motor vehicles. They're made to be driven to a position, to a place from A to B. That is essentially why both companies have succeeded. They both have a solution to a problem.
Let me ask you is it all right if I ask you some questions about some of the stuff you shared so far?
Absolutely not. No, don't ask me.
Yeah, it'd be a terrible conversation.
Yeah. I'm here to only talk to you. You do not talk to me. Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm an open book.
So when I remember when I was, maybe it was around the same age you started on your bike with your coffee.
Yeah.
I was in band and we had band trips. And one of the things you could do was sell like wrapping paper or chocolate almonds or, whatever. They give you the
Sure.
thing to sell.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Popcorn is what we did in Cub Scouts.
yeah. So under no circumstances would I do that because I found myself who I am and know myself to be these days is connection. I shied away a lot from that aspect of who I was, very nervous about talking to people. And so it sounds like, first of all, my first question is, it sounds like that wasn't present for you. You were just like, well, whatever. I just get on my bike
No,
and
that
sell
was
people coffee.
extremely present for me. So the one thing
Ah,
that I learned at a very young age is, and I don't know how I can explain this in a more transparent light, but I have a very interesting mindset. I don't have that normal mindset. Like, this is also why I don't get along with society as a whole.
most entrepreneurs
Is
don't in some regards.
yeah,
Yeah.
is if you have a fear, you have to confront it dead on.
Got it. So you're like the buffalo, you run towards the storm.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
So was getting on this bike, were you kind of like, this is terrifying, therefore I'm going to go towards this? Like, is that,
yes,
and
yes,
was that the primary driver for you taking that on? Or was there sort of like,
yes.
got it.
Yeah,
So you just saw,
I knew that I had to get out of my shyness because it just wasn't going to benefit me down the road. The other thing that was really funny, and I'll tell you a quick story, is so somehow, some way through the grapevine, this is obviously way before the internet was big.
yeah.
I got an opportunity to go on a morning show in my local area. So I show up at 4 in the morning. That's when they want me to show up, four in the
That
morning.
is morning capital, all capitals morning show.
Yeah, yeah. And they start at 5, and so I remember my dad and I driving down to the studio, and he didn't tell me this, and I don't know if he knew it or didn't know it. He's got to have known it, but I think he didn't tell me it because he knew that I was like going to freak out, and I was like gonna whatever. And I get there, and they're getting me ready, and I ask one of the producers, I say, so if I like mess up or if I cuss, like you guys can like edit that out, and like this is gonna get, kind of, edited. He goes, oh no, this is live.
All right.
So at what, 15 and a half, 16 years old, I can't remember exactly. My first, media push for my company was like, and we're live.
Right. Yeah.
The
Do this
lights,
right.
the lights come on, the camera's there, you get the red light on it, and you got this really, I mean, again, 16 years old, so going through puberty, and you got this beautiful newscaster. Yeah,
He's smiling a lot at me. I think it's working.
it was a really interesting, eye-opening experience. But then after that, it was just, I just kept telling myself, don't cuss, don't cuss, don't cuss, don't cuss, don't cuss.
Right.
And then after that, it just got kind of more normal and more repetitive, and I kind of got comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Got it. So what are some of the so there's like the stuff you've learned, which is like run towards the fear, be comfortable
Yeah,
with being uncomfortable. What are
yeah.
some of the consequences you've noticed from like these ways of showing up? Like
So timid is not in my vocabulary.
I got that.
And sometimes that turns people off.
Mm,
And frankly, I could give two shits.
right.
That's kind of how I've built my success. I tell people all the time, I love helping people and I love supporting people, but I will fire you as fast as I hire you.
Mm,
Like, if you do not do what I need to have done, then you no longer are in my business. You no longer are in my life.
uh-huh.
And trust me, I have quote unquote burned bridges, but those bridges are never burned because I want to. It's because the other person doesn't want to succeed with me.
What's the hardest bridge been to burn?
Employees.
Just in general?
Yeah. I mean, well, I mean, my girlfriend is a very strong alpha woman, and sometimes we butt heads, and we've definitely have our differences, and she's threatened to leave me, and I've threatened to leave her. But at the end of the day, we kind of come back and we go, yeah, screw it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. How long you guys been together for?
9 years.
Yeah. Wow. Congrats, man. That's a
Yeah,
long time. My
yeah,
wife and I think I'm not, she's better at this than I am, but I think we're celebrating 20 years together. So we got together around the same time you guys did,
yeah, yeah.
and, or at least the same age rather. And, it's amazing to me because she and we do a lot of work and we have a lot of support, and yet still there's just these places that show up where it's like, oh, there's the friction. That's the thing that we're currently up against. Like even just this morning, we were cleaning up with each other, like, oh yeah, there we are banging our heads into each other.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
So employees, like what have been, it sounds like doing the bold, or maybe a better way to put it is like doing the difficult thing isn't so difficult for you. That's
Correct.
like,
Well, and the
okay,
other thing is I also think, and I know to your viewers, and I don't mean this in disrespect. I have to put that in air quotes.
right. You're all a bunch of
Um,
morons. Now on to the next thing.
I believe in going 100%, and that's
Uh-huh.
why I don't drive a Toyota Camry. I drive a five. All my cars are 500 plus horsepower cars.
Uh-huh.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
So in a business, if you are going to work for someone, right? If you are going to say, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to go to the college route and I'm going to get my degree and I'm going to take my degree and I'm going to go to a job and that job's going to pay me and I'm going to do at their bidding what they want. Great. No questions asked. Fantastic. I wish you the best and I think you're going to enjoy your life.
Right.
Entrepreneurs would rather shoot themselves in the face because we cannot be controlled that way. We don't have that drive to be controlled. We have a very, very independent drive. And it, again, I tell people all the time, I tell people, I say, look, you're either going to be in your business or you're not.
Mm.
People say, I got my side hustle. And I go, that's cool. That's what it will be. It'll be a side hustle.
Right. But
Either
like
you're
the idea that
100%
like
or you're
if I
not.
relate to this as a side hustle and I do this stuff on the side long enough, at some point it's going to cross this threshold
It
somehow
won't.
where,
It won't.
yeah, right, exactly.
It won't.
It's like people that are frantically trying to get everything done in the hopes that if they do that long enough, then they will experience peace. And it's
Yeah.
just like, well, that's weird to think that.
It is. It is. And there again, there's a lot of people out there that have become beta males. I use the word loosely, and I can't really think of a better term, and that is complacency is the best policy.
Mm,
I don't live by that time.
right.
I don't live by that that quota or quote, or I don't live by that ability to say I'm just going to roll over and take it.
Right.
Business owners that say that or do that are no longer in business.
So give me an example of something where you've been confronted like that, where you were like, oh, there's sort of an opportunity where someone might roll over and take it, and I'm going to show up differently. I'm going to choose a different path.
I mean, I've had people come up to me and say, I've heard through the grapevine that you're an asshole. I go, yep.
Mm.
And they look at me like, you're not.
Oh no, he's an asshole.
You're not supposed to agree to that. That's where you're supposed to go. Oh, really? I'm so sorry. I'm not.
Right.
I'm not sorry. Because now, am I rude? No, I'm not. I'm actually very, very focused, and I will be as pleasant as possible. But if you're not gonna quote unquote like what I say and just deem me as an asshole or someone that is rude or disrespectful because of my way of talking or my way of feeling, that's your opinion, and I respect your opinion. I respect your opinion,
Right.
but I won't conform to that.
Got it. So what do you find challenging or difficult it's not this sort of stuff, right? It seems like it's the path we've been talking about so far is like, this is the stuff I can, I'm willing to take on. Timid's not in my dictionary. What do you find challenging or difficult?
I find business challenging on the sense that you try to, when you try to build something and then there's outside circumstances that hold you back. For example, perfect example, we're switching over to a new K-cup box, Keurig, K-cup single
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
pods.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, tell me what you mean by this. Just so you're changing like the pods that you're offering to a different pod. Is
correct,
that right? Okay, got it.
correct. We're also changing the box. Okay, we've submitted the paperwork, or sorry, we submitted the artwork. It's done. It's out of our hands.
Right.
We're waiting on the manufacturer to make the labels and then put the labels on the new boxes and get it delivered to our warehouse. And they're like, well, we have lead times. And I go, I understand we have lead times. That's why I talked to you 3 months ago. And it's like, well, yeah, but we've been really inundated with work, da, 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 da. And so there's this never ending back and forth. And
Mm,
you're like, son of a bitch, dude, I'm going to come down there and I'm going to run the presses myself. You're not going to, right?
of
But
course.
the problem is that when you're trying to create something and you have outside circumstances that hold you back, it's very, very, very frustrating.
What do you find yourself like? What's your go-to when you're confronted by that stuff?
Persistence.
Got it. So you'd be sort of knocking on their door, if
Yeah.
if they're like, yeah, yeah, just a sec, you're like, great, I'll just keep knocking on your door for the next 8 years until
Yeah.
I get what I'm after.
I mean, that's what we do. I mean, like right now I'm virtually knocking on the doors by texting the people and saying, I need to have a timeline. What's going on? And it's kind of getting to a point where I'm being, and again, asshole.
Mm,
That's where, but if you do not take the initiative, they won't.
right. Right. So you're taking that initiative as your responsibility. You're kind of like, I'm bringing this forward because I
Right.
have to. I can't rely or wait or expect it of them.
Every single business owner needs to take their, literally all their failures have to be essentially on them.
Uh-huh.
I cannot stress this enough. If you are going to fail in business because you want to say it was them, not you, you're cheating yourself.
Uh-huh. Yeah, one of the places, I mean, the whole I guess we could call it like model for leadership that I work with in and attempt to model myself is one where part of a leader's job is to take ownership of more of the experience they're currently having. So it's like, oh, my K cup box isn't happening. How can I own that result? How can I be at cause and responsible for the way it's
Right.
going? And then
Right.
the reason we would do that is it gives us access to power. Oh, I can see this is how I'm showing up. Now there's a path for me to do something. Whereas
Right.
if it's not my fault because of those people, there's nothing I can do other than just complain about it and say it's not my fault. And then I don't have much power in the matter.
Right. Right.
And one of the things, so I'm really reliable down that path, as it sounds like you are pretty reliable to like, what can I see on my side?
Yeah.
One of the things I notice can be really challenging for me is allowing the space for my humanity when I have those moments when I really want to be a victim, those moments when I'm like, but it's not my fault, or they are fucking wrong, or whatever that sort of thing happens to be. And instead,
Sure.
I'll try to layer this heightened, it's almost like hyper responsibility over top of it because, I'm so committed to that. It doesn't let me actually sit where I am. I'm curious how that goes for you. Like, do you have space for yourself in that, or is that a challenge for you to sit in, or how does that all play out?
I mean, let's put it this way. I think everyone would be a multi-billionaire if everything went their way. Um, but
We have no
because you
poor
have,
people.
but because you have to fight tooth and nail for every dollar,
Mm,
you learn at a very young age. For me, I learned at a very young age that
yeah.
nothing will come to me. I have to go to it.
Uh-huh. So is that your experience that you have to fight tooth and nail?
Should you?
Shit, yeah. Cool.
I mean,
Cool.
I can't stress it enough. I mean, like look at Steve Jobs, right? one of the most amazing men of our time. He fought against the biggest giant of IBM, and he won because he would not give up. He got fired from his own company because he was considered an asshole. But then he told everyone, you will hire me back because you need me, because I'm the one that's actually going to drive the ball across the line.
Is Steve Jobs one of the people that, like you mentioned him, is he one of the people that inspires you towards like how you create yourself? Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think Apple products are the greatest. I mean, Tim's a good guy, don't get me wrong, but you're never going to replace the original.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Who else are your people that sort of are like North Stars or guiding lights or inspirations?
Do you know Dan Pena?
No.
Look him up. Dan
How do I
Pena.
spell his last name?
It's Panaa. It's Italian. I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know how to spell. I'm really bad. I have dyslexia. I'm actually certified dyslexic.
No need to flex here.
So I don't know how to spell a cat. P-E-N-A.
Yeah.
Pena.
Pena. Pena. Okay.
Yeah.
Dan Pena. Yeah.
I truly respect the man because he's worth $50 billion. And he said he's a great, what is it? I don't know how brash I can be on your show. I don't.
As brash as you'd like to be.
Okay. He's sitting there and the guy's interviewing him and he says, so Dan, you know, you're so successful and you're a motivational speaker. He goes, what's like the one takeaway that other entrepreneurs or people that want to be successful could look up to? And he goes, well, it's very simple. You're either going to be, again, this is Dan talking, okay? He goes, you're either going to be fucked or you're going to be fucking.
Right.
If you're fucking, you win. If you're fucked, you lose.
It's quite a lens through which to relate to the world.
You know, I can't, he's so blunt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but it's true. You know, if you're going to be passive, if you're going to allow the world to revolve and you're not going to take it by the balls and control it, and actually I haven't been this blunt on any podcast before, so you really pull it out of me, bud. But I will say this is he's got a very, very valid point. The man has a 20-room castle in Ireland. He's worth $50 billion. I mean, let's talk about the orange man bad, right? Trump, one of the most amazing business people in the world, even though they say, oh, he bankrupted himself so many times. Well, he did because his partners didn't know how to run companies. And he said, I'm not going to go down without a fight. And so he went down and he filed chapter because he's so sick and tired of people trying to, you know, run the company into the ground. Trump's worth like $8 billion, and the media decided to come out and say, well, you have a $400 million debt. He goes, and he goes, you know, he had to be very presidential about it, but he goes, and what's the point? You know, if I had a $400 million debt, I would be worth billions of dollars.
Right.
Every billionaire has debt. Every business owner has debt.
Uh-huh.
The more debt you have, the more money you have.
So let me ask you a few more questions and then we're going to dive in and get into a coaching conversation. So what's a question you find people ask you a lot that drives you nuts? And it might not be like, fuck you for asking the question. It might just be like, this is the question being asked, or, you know, what do you find people bring to you?
Is your coffee gluten-free?
And I think I know the answer to this, but just tell us, like, why does that drive you nuts?
It's like saying, is meat gluten-free or is vegetables gluten-free?
Right.
Yes, you idiot.
It's kind of, and I, you know, there's a part of me that also imagines you could, I mean, I buy stuff and I look at the labels from time to time, and there's stuff that gets labeled gluten-free that's just like, wow, that's being labeled gluten-free. I guess that's just sort of, it's become a new marketing label to stick on your product.
Yeah, I think what's happened in America and the world but mainly America, is we have been inundated with a media that wants to passively control the masses.
Say more about
And
passively control.
well, okay. So when you have a separation of people, that's not a free society. That's a controlled society, and that's essentially upper class, lower
Hierarchies, yeah.
class hierarchies. America was founded off of everyone is equal under the law.
Right.
But over time, and you're listen, folks, whoever's listening and watching, you're about to see one of the most amazing, absolutely one of the most amazing controversies of America come out. It's going to be a flipping shit show of epic proportions. So buckle up and get ready because it's going to be fun. But
Invest in popcorn.
invest in popcorn, absolutely freaking lootly. But I would say this: I would say that it's gotten to the point where our economic system is of the class of wealth.
Right.
And we should be teaching how you can go on to Robinhood and get an app and actually start stock trading and making passive income in schools. We should talk about how a supply and demand curve works in business in schools.
Right.
We should talk about how you balance a checkbook in schools. We should talk about how you have positive debt and negative debt and what the differences are in schools. And I'm not talking college level. I'm talking high school. I'm talking elementary level.
Right.
But what the schools want to do, what the public education wants to do, is they want to talk about everyone is equal and we need to be understanding of Black people and indigenous people because they suffered, and we need to atone to our problems, and what we need to do is every time we decide to make success, we need to give it out for free. It destroys the structure of a society.
Okay, so that's sort of like, we're getting like kind of to like a societal conversation here, but let's bring it back to you. What do you wish people asked you more? Like, what's the sort of conversation you wish you were in more with people?
Oh boy, that's a good question. Like I said, I'm like an open book, man. I don't really have I'll voice my opinion. So if I really want to have a question answered, I'll ask it. I like conversations that is intellectual. I like conversations that, isn't just surface level. I like conversations that talk about psychological mindsets, and I'm a car guy too. So if you ever want to talk cars, like, we can talk till the cows come home. I mean, this could be a 3-hour freaking podcast.
What was your first car?
BMW E46 M3.
Okay, so I don't want to blow your mind and make you feel bad, but my first car was a Chevrolet Sprint, 3-cylinder, and I bought it used, and it broke down almost instantly. So,
well,
how do you feel now?
I bought a Chevy, but I bought a Beamer, so I get the last laugh. Your car costs as much as one repair. But no, I bought a BMW in high school, and it was from the coffee money, because
how was that? Like, did you find your peers related to you a different way, given, you'd already started to amass wealth and were like an entrepreneur at this point?
Yeah, I was definitely the big man on campus, to a point where the sheriff's office thought I was selling weed.
Yes.
I think actually more than that. I think they thought I was selling like hard drugs, because there was like, I think that I flat out, let me be very clear. The more wealth you make, the more haters you create.
Right. It's the attention you draw to yourself.
Okay. That's the reality of it. Anytime you succeed, the exact same person on the other side is in jealousy and wants you to be destroyed. It will always be that way.
Okay.
So you have to absorb your haters and you have to say, those are going to be my haters and that's what's going to happen. Done.
Mm.
Okay. I'm going to look at my successes and I'm going to go look at how I can succeed with other friends and people. You are who you surround yourself with. So if you surround yourself with druggies, if you surround yourself with losers, if you surround yourself with people that go to Taco Bell as a living, they come home, they live in their parents' basement and they play PS4 all the day long, guess what? If you hang out with the people that sit on Learjets, have Ferraris, Maseratis, have businesses, like to create wealth, are in real estate, those are the people I like to hang around.
So what did that look like? Like, take me back to high school though. So you're related to as the big man on campus. I'm guessing you relate to yourself to that way, to that extent, to some extent. What's life like at that point? Are you busy? Are you ignoring kind of social activities? Are you relishing in this sort of what wealth is bringing to you? Like, what's the experience?
Yeah. So I did go to college. Dropped
Uh-huh.
out. My immediate, not my mom and dad, but my immediate family, my grandpa and aunt and uncle really pushed college on me. Like, you gotta do college. I remember in high school I checked out. Like I got to the
Mm.
point where I was selling coffee to my teachers,
Huh.
and I was making more money. And I was like, well, why am I needing to figure out, the circumference of a circle using
Right.
a math formula? I get it. No, don't get me wrong. It's a good thing to have and, knowledge. But I was more interested in supply and demand curves. I was more
Right.
interested in optimization of SEO, search engine optimization. I remember taking phone calls in high school with SEO people that were, that I was paying to get my website higher up in rankings.
Mm.
And kids would come up to me and be like, dude, like, how do you do this? Like, what's going on? Like I had peers that were trying to learn from me.
Uh-huh.
But no,
Did you have
I
many
love that
friends?
car. Huh?
Did you have many friends?
I had a lot of acquaintances. I still to this day I don't really have friends. I have
Got it. Yeah.
acquaintances.
I can relate to
Um,
that.
but I think friends is an interesting word. Friends to me is someone that will suck your time.
Oh, wow. Well, then no wonder you don't have many friends.
Yeah, I like acquaintances because I've got thousands of acquaintances. I've got friends. I got acquaintances in real estate. I got acquaintances in stock market trading. I got acquaintances. So a friend, again, it's how you see the term in that level. So is my friend that's in real estate a friend? Yeah, but how many times do I see him a year? 3 or 4. How
Right.
many
He's not
times do we
someone you would
talk?
call up to like watch a TV show with or play a video
Bingo.
game with or something like
Ring.
that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's you nailed it. So friends to me suck your money and your time.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, from that relationship to what a friend is, it would make total sense to me that you wouldn't seek that out. I mean, why would you? It'd be weird.
Right.
It'd be a weird
I
thing
mean,
to
I
go
have
like,
I have a friend, and that's my girlfriend.
aha, got
We
it.
spend more time together than anyone else. Like that's my friend, right? That is
Yeah.
my friend, and she's a girl, and she's awesome. But yeah, I would say I'll do ski trips with acquaintances, and we say friends because that's what the general term is. Oh, that's my friend.
Yeah.
But we do ski trip, and we do like a 5-day ski trip, and then we won't talk to each other for 8 months
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha.
because we're both busy, both highly motivated individuals that don't have the time to just sit around and watch football and drink beer.
Is that what you would do if you had time to watch TV? You'd watch football?
No, I hate football.
Got it.
I hate
Well,
sports.
what would you do
What do you mean?
with if you had an extra 2 hours every week? What would you spend that time doing?
Uh,
And you can't choose work.
well, okay, yeah. I mean, I was a swimmer. So in high
Mm.
school, I was a swimmer, and
Yeah.
I was actually a really good swimmer. I was 3/10 of a second going away to Olympic trials. And I loved swimming because it was self motivation, and if you failed, it was on you. And that's how I really related to swimming. But and our coach was really a hard ass about it, and I loved it.
I
But
was gonna say, yeah, that would fit.
yeah. But I would say that what do I do on my downtime? Again, sorry, just have to keep going back to it. Cars is my
Uh-huh.
passion.
So drive, work on them. Like, are you someone that tinkers with the engines and stuff?
I used to.
Oh,
I
cool.
realized that my time was more valuable, and it's kind of funny. I started I'll this is kind of like where it was like, okay, maybe I should let the expert do the thing. So
Right.
I came to a conclusion that I was going to replace the radiator in one of my cars. I bought the part. I looked at the manual. I watched the YouTube videos. I did everything. Forgot to bleed the system, right?
Mm.
And so essentially, when I went in to put more coolant in, it mixed with the old coolant, and essentially it had to get drained. So
Right.
so I took it to my mechanic that is like a really good mechanic, and I really respect him. And he goes, "Hey, quick question. How much did you spend on this?" I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "How much did you spend for the alternator? How much did you spend for the parts? How much? I don't know, like $300. Okay, I would have charged you $400, but it would have been done right.
Right.
Now I have to charge you $800 because I have to go get I have to get all new parts because you use the same fluid which contaminated the radiator, and now you're out of the hole." So he's like, you can do whatever you want, man, but I'm telling you, if you bring it to me,
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna save you time and money, because now you're not wasting your time. I mean, I wasted 6 hours where it took him an hour and a half because he
Right.
knows that stuff. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
So I learned at a very, again, young age, always hire your weaknesses, never your strengths. So that's what
Mm.
I do in my business. I hire my weaknesses.
Uh-huh. Got it. Well, let's dive in. Let's take a look at something and
Let's dive
see
in.
see
Let's
where we can
go.
go. So like we've got maybe 30 minutes.
How many people are on live, by the way?
I don't know. I've minimized it. I'm not even looking.
Oh,
So
okay.
I have no idea what we've got because that makes it more fun. I can just be here with you instead of like managing all of that.
By the way, is that a Q mug?
It is. Yeah. My last name's Quiney. And
Uh,
so growing up, it's impossible to find anything branded that way. So
do you
were you thinking
know
it's like
about
James
Q?
Bond?
Do you know about Q?
QAnon?
Yeah.
This is without a doubt not a QAnon mug. This is not me expressing support. Let me just be very clear about that. That is not what that mug represents. So tell me, Tyler, like what would be something for us to take a look at, to work at, to dive into that's going on in your life?
Need more money, man.
Okay, great. So more money is kind of what we're talking about.
I love money. It's freedom.
Yeah, so tell me about that because like the sense I get just from listening to you share is that there's a fair bit of money. Is that not your experience of it?
What do you mean?
So when I hear you talk, I'm like, sounds like this guy's surrounded by money. Like that just is kind of the sense I get. Doesn't mean I'm right about that, but that's sort of what I was hearing. And so I'm
Yeah.
asking, it's interesting. You're sort of like, I need more money. And I'm curious, like, that's almost like a little incongruent.
It's the greatest addiction in the world, man. You can never get
Mm.
enough of it.
So what's the like, what for get more money? What will money provide?
Again, freedom. So
Okay.
the thing about money is that when you get money, you have the ability to buy your problems, whatever
Right.
problem it is. It could be any problem in the world, and money will buy it.
Okay. So what's
Except for
the
one, health. Health,
love?
you what?
Love?
True love. Yeah.
I'm asking, can you buy true love? Is that available through
Oh
money?
God, no, you can't buy true love. You
Okay,
can't
got
buy
it.
you can't buy health. You can't buy health. So like for example, I tell people all the time, if you don't have a healthy lifestyle, now can I buy organic food for my health? Yes, but generally speaking, health, right? So if you have a health related issue, you need to address your health before you address anything else in the world. Like health is so above everything. It's above love, it's above money, it's above God, it's above your family, it's above everything. Because if you don't have your health, you have nothing. You have absolutely nothing.
Excellent use of slamming the desk to make a point. So,
all right, I get intense sometimes.
No, I enjoy your passion. It's really cool to be with. So more money, so as to get freedom. What is it that you like? So let's help me get a sense of that. Like, let's say you achieve freedom. So what's different about your life from where you're currently at, having broken free and created freedom?
It's just a better quality of life.
How?
Well, instead of taking commercial, you're flying private. Instead of driving a Toyota, you're driving a Mercedes. Instead of living in a 1 bedroom, 1 bath like I did, you're living in a 5 bedroom, 3 bath, $500,000 home with a yard and a nice pool.
Okay. But wouldn't there be sort of like a next level after that?
Sure. Then you go from your $500,000 to $1.5 million house. You have more money to invest into the market, or invest into ideas, or invest into companies that you think is going to make you more money. You have the ability to buy your own plane instead of rent your own plane. You have the ability to have 7 cars versus 2 cars.
Mm-hmm. And what are you left wanting at the end of all that? More money, it sounds like.
Absolutely. It's a never ending cycle of reciprocation. Now, here's the thing.
That doesn't sound like freedom to me.
I disagree.
Okay, help me get over there with you. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just reflecting what I'm hearing. It sounds like, it sounds like you're still trapped under this need for more money on this side of the conversation.
So let me kind of segue in that I believe in helping people if it's actually going to help people. So I don't believe in hand out. I believe in hand up. So if someone says, "Hey, Tyler, I'm down on my luck. They're going to foreclose on me. Is there any way that you could give me a little bit of money, and I'll reciprocate, and I'll come over and I'll do work, or I'll pay you back somehow." Sure, bud. No problem. Here's $2,000, whatever.
Right.
But seeing a commercial of, we need to pay $75 a month will feed 3 or 4 African people in Uganda. You don't know where that money goes. It could go right to the pockets of the board. You don't know where that money goes. So when I say charity, I don't believe in just giving to a company and praying that it gets to the need. I'd rather go to the need directly and give it directly to the people in need.
And how does that connect with freedom, this conversation about freedom that you brought?
Well, what I'm saying is the more money you have, the more money you can give.
Is that important to you?
To support causes?
Yeah, to contribute.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big believer. I mean, we have a 503(c) that does all our fulfillment. We employ people that have downs or mental deficiencies that unfortunately cannot, quote unquote, have a normal job, but the remedial task of fulfilling orders or the warehouse items, it is unbelievable. It makes my heart swell with pride that we're actually supporting a cause that I can see directly benefiting people. And I love going down to my warehouse and walking in and seeing everyone smile and say, "Tyler, how are you?" And to me, I know that we're really supporting a cause there. That makes me feel really glad, like happy.
Nice. Okay. So it's really interesting to hear you say like more money, because then I can do more. And then, but there's like sort of, there's a degree of a hamster wheel. Not that it's a bad hamster wheel. It's pimped out. It's nice. It's gilded, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and there's a little bit, well, I guess here's one of the things I notice is to hear you describe stuff, right? It's well thought out. You're obviously very brilliant. You've got kind of like, here's how stuff is, and therefore here's the optimized approach to being with the way stuff is. And what I'm left wondering is like, what feels missing in your life? Like what's an experience or something that feels like, man, this thing feels
Well,
elusive.
so when you sent me over the what would you
The
want to
form.
do and knock off your bucket list?
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw it yet, but I would love to have a tour of Area 51.
A which, sorry?
Area 51.
Oh, a tour of Area 51.
Wouldn't that
Got
be
it.
the coolest thing in the world?
Or the most boring, depending on like whether you go and you're like, oh, the myth isn't true.
Either way, I
But
think it would be
yeah,
a revealing experience, right?
right. So, but that's just a vacation, a visit. I mean, I'm not slighting it, but it's also like if someone was like, the bucket list for me would be to have a Lamborghini, and like, great, but they're going to get that Lamborghini, and then it's sort of like, has that fulfilled what's missing in life? Or so let me ask this actually, do you feel kind of like, yeah, life is exactly, I've got it by the balls more or less, and I just want more of it? Like it's all lined up the way I want it? Or is there more to life that you're wanting that all of this more money contributing more is hopefully going to get for you or create somehow?
So let's talk about that concept of the Lamborghini, right? I've driven
Sure.
4 or 5 Lamborghinis, and I actually do like the Lamborghinis. And I have to say that an AMG car is one of the best value cars you can ever have in your life. But Lamborghini, it comes with some status. It comes with some wow, you got a Lamborghini. Lamborghini can be bought. I can buy a $90,000 Lamborghini tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I actually was looking at some Aston Martins today, and they're fun toys, but that's money, right? So the more money
Yes.
I have, I can just go buy one. Just make a
Yeah.
phone call and say, hey, I'll wire you the money. Send me the car. Thanks. Done. Like it could
Yeah.
be that cut and dry. When people say, oh, it'd be nice to have a Lamborghini someday, it's because they're not looking at how to make money. You gotta look at it this way. I never look at what my expenses are. I only look at how much profit we made. We made more money this week than last week. That's all I care about. Because when you have enough money, you look at your bank account and you go, oh shit, I can go buy stuff. And it just becomes a transactional process. It's not an emotional process. People put so much emotion behind money. It's not. It's a transactional way of living our lives. And to be quite frank, money has zero value. It has zero value. What we do is we put value towards it. Now we have 300 million people that put value towards a dollar. Okay. And up in Canada, you have 30 million people that put value towards your dollar. But if you don't have that people, that paper is worth its weight in paper. So money is not an emotional thing. When I say I want more money, it's because I just want more freedom. But the only way we can obtain more freedom is more money.
Yeah. And what I'm intending to reflect is, so I really get that. Like, I get that part of who you are as a man is like this, like a brilliant, very driven, very passionate guy. And that there's a part of you that longs for like true freedom. And, um, and so far, like more money has sort of every time you take a step, you get like more freedom. And as much as you can buy more, you can create more. Like with enough money, you could tour Area 51. If you were like, I'm going to wipe out the debt of the United States of America, let me have a tour of America. They would allow that, right? Like enough money can provide something.
You get into higher places with more money, yes.
Exactly. Yeah. And can get away with more. We're not going to
Yeah,
go down that path. But so here's
unfortunately.
something I notice is that I'll speak to this through an analogy, and then I'm going to give it back to you and see what you hear in this. Often when I work with people that are very time scarce, so they're very, very busy, and they're we could almost call it like empowered, but it's actually kind of resignation. But they're empowered about their busyness because they're like, there's an impact I want to create in the world, and I'm willing to be busy in order to create that impact because I care so much about that impact. Now, if you ask them, well, what if you could create that impact without having to be so busy? They would choose that 100%. But never mind that for now. Often when I talk to these people and I'm like, what do you really want? One of the things they're craving for is travel. Yeah. Now, the reason they want travel is because it's going to give them an
experience.
Yeah. And particularly what they want more of in their life is an experience of adventure. And they believe that traveling will create that experience.
Sure. Which it would.
Which it will, except then what they're doing is they're kind of, rather than creating an experience of ongoing, ever-present adventure in their life, they create an experience of restriction in their life, let's say 48 weeks out of the year, and then 4 weeks out of the year, they get to travel and have this experience of adventure. And what they're really longing for is an ever-present, like kind of living their life from adventure, rather than it being this thing on the shelf they get to pull down 1 week every quarter.
Right.
And so that's what I'm kind of curious about is when I hear you say like, I want more money because then I could have more freedom. I'm really curious, like what would true freedom look like for Tyler? Not just the ability, like what if you had freedom, real freedom right now? What would be different?
Well, again, it buys problems, right? So, I mean, more money, more problems is an absolute truth. Because I went from buying $5,000 a month in coffee to now buying $50,000 a month to now buying $500,000 a month to now buying $5 million a month, right? So if I'm buying, let's say, top tier $5 million a month in coffee, then I'm selling $15 to $20 million in coffee.
Okay.
So then you go, okay, well, it is $15 million a month, or sorry, is let's take 1% of that. Is $1.5 million to your pocket a month enough money? Shit, yeah. I mean, there's no question about it. I think anyone would say, yeah, 300 or 12 million, $14 million a year is you're above the 0.001% in the world. With that, what do? Well, you can travel the world, you can go to different places, you can meet different people, you can push your weight around and say, look, I'm gonna, support my candidate that I want because they're going to change the future of America for the better, not for the worse. There's a lot of things you can do that are successful people. When you're around successful people, they talk in terms of kind of monopoly, right? Like, oh, I just bought this building. It cost $5.5 million, and I already got 6 to 7 tenants that it's turning, and I paid off the mortgage, and I'm making about $300,000 net profit a month, kind of thing. That's just talking in monopoly terms. Like if you played Monopoly with friends, you're like, well, I'm going to buy Boardwalk. And
how does this all relate to freedom for you and what you would do with more freedom in this moment?
Well, okay, so let's backtrack. We have about 80,000 days of life on this planet. From birth to death is about 80,000 days, which is surprising. When you really actually think about it, it's like, holy shit, that's not much. Okay. So in that time, you want to leave a legacy.
You do?
I do.
Okay, great.
I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave a value, and I want to enjoy it. And so the way to enjoy it is through money. I mean, you can do it the very bad way of like being in the cartel and making millions of cash, but then you're going to get a bullet in the head or you're going to get arrested. And trust me, don't go down that route. You don't want to go down that route because all you're going to be living in is a fear. But if you do it the legal way, and you do it the logical way, and you do it the honest way, then you can enjoy it. And it doesn't have to really fear. You don't have fear holding you back. Again, money does anything you want it to do, except for, you're right, buys happiness. Absolutely buys happiness. can't buy true love, and it can't buy your health.
How free do you feel in your life currently?
Percentage basis.
Sure. I'll take whatever you want to use. You could use alligators if
Uh,
you liked.
I don't know, 60%.
60%? Okay.
So I have another, 40% to go.
Hold on, I'm going to cough. See, I warned you. That was very generous. I could have muted. That would have been even more generous.
It's that QAnon, man.
Leaving that out. Okay, so 60%. All right. So the interesting thing about that to me is I'm hearing you say more money would lead to more freedom, but 60% doesn't feel, at least to me, like, a lot of freedom expressed. That's almost like half the, and this is not a criticism, it's almost like half the time you're not feeling free. And I'm hearing you say more money would lead to that. And yet you have a lot more access to wealth and money and all of that stuff than most people, I would say. I'm not saying that there's not, it's an exponential curve, right? So it can always go higher and higher.
Yeah, and there's always going to be that guy that's richer than you.
Right. Yeah. So tell me about that 40%. Like, what is your experience of not being free?
Well, again, I can't really reiterate it enough. If you have more money than someone else, then you have
Don't tell me about me. Tell me about you.
I am. I'm saying if you have more
You're
money,
saying if you have more money, that's about me. I want you to tell me about Tyler.
if I have more money than someone else, then I have more freedom than them.
Okay. And has that been your experience? Like, as you've made more money, you feel more and more free in your life?
No question.
Got it. So what was it like, when you were 14? Or let's say what are you now? You're 30?
30.
Okay, so 25, what was your experience like?
25 was pretty rough. 2015, the business was still on struggling. And I'm not saying the business is not struggling. I'm saying that we're now substantially different than 5 years ago.
Yeah, different struggles, more money, different scale.
Yeah, but wasn't driving. It didn't own 3 cars. Didn't have a house. I did have a small house, which is now my rental, but it couldn't afford the food that I have now. Couldn't afford. I'm not really a clothing guy. People say, "Oh, Tyler, you gotta up your wardrobe." That doesn't really bother me. I don't know, man. It just COVID really put a damper on my travels. I used to travel all the time.
Us too.
But I didn't have the time, didn't have the money to travel, didn't have the money to. You would always fight over it. Like it'd be like, oh man, do I buy gas or do I buy food, or do I do this or do I do that? And money has a lot of friction to it, because if you don't have it, see, when poor people, right? Poor people, they talk about money all the time. And the reason why they talk about money all the time is because they don't have it.
But you have a lot of it, and you talk about it a lot.
No, that's not true. I don't have a lot of it.
More than me, I assume.
We don't know that. But
okay.
I would say that when poor people talk, they talk a lot about money, and you're using the word, right? You're using the word money. Well, why don't you take out that word money in the vernacular and put in freedom? I don't have the freedom to do this. I don't have.
If we were to do that with you,
yeah,
and the conversation became, I want more freedom rather than I want more money.
Yeah.
So what would that look like? And now so the task I'm going to give you is to take the advice you're giving, which is to really remove money entirely from this conversation, and then be in a conversation with me about man, I want more freedom. What are the areas in your life in which you currently want more freedom?
We'll put it this way. I'm content for right now. I really do want to travel, and I think travel is freedom. I would like to go, to Hawaii, but I heard that you have to quarantine for 14 days. So, you have to buy a trip for 2 weeks, and takes away. I
Right.
mean, and then the thing is you have a child called a business, and if you're not there, I never work really in my company. I work on my company,
Uh-huh.
but I would say that any investor would say if you don't work if you don't work on your company, then your company is going to fail. And so
Mhm.
that's why people invest in people, not in they can sign to invest in the business because they see, okay, well, it's making this kind of money. But people invest in people because they say, okay, this man's going to work hard. He's going to be dedicated. He's going to be driven to succeed. And I'm the same way. I go to work every day because I have a drive to succeed. I have a drive to make more. I have a drive to make better. And when you decide to travel, that's when it takes away from, the success. So you have to have people there. You have to trust the people. I mean, there's a lot of dichotomy to what I'm saying here. And I kind of feel like I'm talking at a level that is semi confusing. And I apologize to your listeners or viewers if that's the truth. But
You're doing
when you
great.
have a business, you have to make sure that you have it under control. You can't leave it. It's a child. Okay. I don't have kids. I really don't. I've
Can I
never
offer a
really,
reflection?
huh?
May I offer a reflection?
Yeah, sure.
So what I noticed is my question was, what would you do with more freedom? And you started talking about going on traveling.
Yeah.
And then your conversation shifted into explaining to me why you can't have more freedom.
Right.
Did you notice that?
Sure. That's the
That's kind of
case.
interesting.
Well, that's the reality of it.
Okay. Well, and it's a different conversation than the one I'm inviting you into, which is like, let's imagine you could. And I don't even know how and any of that, but like the whole reason to have any conversation like this one would be to change reality. So you can create something beyond current reality. Now, if you're really like, this is reality, I have no desire to disabuse you of that. I'm happy to just let you have that as your reality.
Yeah.
But I think it misses an opportunity here, which is like what I'm really curious about is, man, what else would Tyler be creating if he had that freedom? If life didn't have to be the way he's already decided it has to be, I wonder what else would he create right now? How would life be different for you right now with more freedom?
I would precisely want to start more businesses.
Ooh, uh-huh. Okay. So you wouldn't be working just in this one, you'd be creating more.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Because now the Tyler's Coffees is not an infant anymore.
No.
It's not an adolescent anymore. It is a grown business. It's been operating for 15 years. It has pre-existing customers. It has a retention rate of 80% on our customer base, which is extremely high. We do a X amount of volume of product every month that we can kind of put our thumb on and say, okay, by the last 4 to 8 months, we've done this volume. We're going to be doing it this volume the next 4 to 8 months, but we're probably going to see about a 5 to 10% increase, hopefully.
Tell me more about what you would create with more freedom. So
Yeah,
more businesses.
so more businesses. Yep,
Uh-huh.
yep.
Would you be
And
spending the same amount of time in them if you had all the freedom in the world?
well, you can't be a one man band. I learned that at the again very young
Well, just to
age.
be clear, it's not what I'm asking.
Yeah,
What I'm asking is, given the amount of time you currently spend in your businesses, of which there's only one, but we're going to just use that moniker, would
sure.
you be spending the same amount of your time alive in those businesses, or would you be spending some time doing other things as well? If you could achieve the same results.
I would do the yeah. I wouldn't do the latter. I would do the first,
The former?
the former.
Got it. So you're currently spending like the exact amount of time you want to be spending in businesses.
Yes.
Okay, great. So what else would you want with more freedom?
Mm, well, it's good. I like see this is what I actually really enjoy. I mean, I know we're live and I respect that tremendously because this is what people actually are starting to want to see is where does the business owner that has what he has start figuring out and questioning the other nuances of life in its entirety. And that's so important because you're absolutely right. Everyone is equal in that they have 24 hours in the day. What are you going to do with those 24 hours? What are you going to do that's actually going to benefit you and or give you freedom and or give you enjoyment? I like that question tremendously. And to be quite honest with you, that's kind of where I would say, I don't know.
Thanks for owning that, man. That's the first time I think I've heard you say you don't know.
Yeah.
That's a courageous thing to take ownership of.
Oh, I always take ownership of something that I don't know.
Let me here's I heard you describe what was happening, and I just want to share my take.
Yeah.
So brilliant people such as yourself, myself, first of all, can you own your brilliance? Are you present to that you have that capacity?
I respect my brilliance, but I'm never going to say I own it because that means that I would shut a door on it.
Okay, fair enough. Very brilliantly put. Do you get that I've got a lot of brilliance too? Like, can you just get that about me? Adam shows up in the room, there's a lot of brilliance, right? We can connect on that level.
Sure.
So one of the things I notice about people with the quality of brilliance is that we're right about the stuff we're right about. We think a lot and we're like this, and we analyze it. My background was law. You'd be a fantastic lawyer. I don't think that's the right place for you to go, but you'd be great at it if you wanted to. And what happens is that we become right about the way the world is.
Yes.
The world is this way, X, Y, and Z. And so the way I would describe the conversation we're in right now is I'm hearing you say, I want more freedom. We started with more money, but it's pretty clear, like, it's not about the money because there's always more money you could get. What you really want is more freedom.
Yeah.
And what I notice is that when you start to get pushed towards a conversation about what more freedom would be, what you want, your default is back towards here's the way the world is, and here's why I can't yet have what I want more of. Like, your conversation is more about the way things currently are and why they have to be that way, as opposed to that more blue sky kind of like, yeah, but what if?
Yeah.
What if?
Yeah.
And as long as the conversation we're in is inside of how the world currently is, what it'll get us is more of what is possible inside the way the world currently is. So I want to be clear, you're reliable. It's clear to me you're reliable to generate a hell of a lot in this column. But what I'm not hearing is like a lot of that, like, yeah, but what if I could create more freedom right now? What would I have more of? And I imagine there's a part of you that would be like, I'd spend a couple hours doing something different. How many hours do you work currently in your business?
9 to 3.
9 to 3. So that's okay. So 6 hours, what, 5 days a week?
Yeah.
What do you spend the rest of your time doing?
Spending time with the girlfriend, hanging out with my dog. I love my dog. He's
what
like
kind of
my
dog?
kid. He's a boxer.
Oh, sweet. I've got a Boston Terrier, and I often feel they're like snout brothers. Their heads are very similarly shaped.
I love Bostons. They're like Frenchies. They're so cute.
Yes, totally. Yeah. Okay. Time with your dog. Yeah.
I love spending time with my dog. I love researching. I'm kind of like a research holic. Let's put it this way. I don't think I could ever get into politics because I have a sailor's mouth, but I love researching politics.
Right.
And I love researching what's going on beyond the curtain. I think entrepreneurs, they strive to see what is out there versus what is seen.
Got it. So it sounds like even though you've created like a fairly abundant amount of time, like most people would give their right arm, they're like, damn, dude's working, what would that be? 6 times 5, 30 hours a week. That's like, sweet. He's arrived. It still hasn't, like, the circumstances of money and or time are still at best currently 60% freedom. There's more to life that you want to experience.
Oh yeah.
So what I like to do, we're just at the end of our time. I want to honor that, and I want to start to wind us down. So I'm going to offer you a practice. You don't have to take it on, but if you were curious about what might be outside of this is the practice I would give you. Okay.
Sure.
Clear. Yeah. Okay. So the thing I would invite you to do, Tyler, is to really get curious about, like, well, what if I could have all of the freedom I wanted right now? What would be different? I get that you're content because who you are not is a complainer. So you're reliable to be like, I'm okay with what I have right now, just like I am. That's fair, right?
Yeah.
And the danger of always finding contentment is sometimes it can stop us from like, yeah, but what if I could create something beyond this? It can
Right.
slow us down a little bit. And
Right.
so the invitation would be to start to get curious over here. And the other thing I would give you is to notice when you start to get into a conversation back on this side about why not. Oh, here's why this is the way it is, and this is how the business is, and you know how it is, and in order to blah, 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 blah. And to see, like, just notice your resistance coming up as you get into this conversation over here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's really important to always think of yourself as you could do better. Like you could always be better, you could always do better, you can always, quote unquote, speak better. Um, Proficiency is a important aspect in anyone's life, but it also can create a lot of stagnation in the education of yourself. And like what I mean by that is the 9 to 5er. We do 3 because why not? But the 9 to 5er that wakes up, goes to work, hates what they do, comes home, gets yelled at by his wife. His kids are falling apart at the seams. He has no money to make ends meet. He then goes to bed, wakes up, and repeats himself. You really have built yourself your own prison. And like I said, most people are content with that. And we're just the ones that kind of we say no. But yeah, I will never say, and I tell people this all the time. I'll be the first to tell you I'm right and I'll prove it. And I'll be the first to say I don't know. And I'll be the first one to say I apologize, I was wrong.
Nice. Well, that's where we will wind down. So let me check in with you and just sort of, I want to finish by acknowledging you and then we'll do a brief debrief. But before we do, is there anything left to
God,
have
you
this?
guys are so freaking polite in Canada. I can't believe
What part about that feels polite to you?
it. I want to honor you. I want to make
Oh,
sure
yeah,
that
interesting.
Americans don't talk that way, but that's good. I like that.
Yeah, definitely. Some of them don't. That's for sure. I know a lot of people that, I mean, the circles I swim in are those of leadership and coaching, and acknowledgement's a pretty key part there, but definitely
Sure.
not commonplace for sure. It's not, for what it's worth, it's not commonplace up here in Canada either.
Gotcha.
Um, but before I do that, anything left for this whole conversation to feel complete for you?
Well, I'm gonna say, look, people that suffer from stomach related modalities can't drink coffee anymore. And if you guys are of that sect of people, 50 million Americans in America, and it's a study done by Crohn's and Colitis Foundation in 2016 that found that there's 50 million Americans that suffer from stomach related issues, as little as heartburn and as severe as interstitial cystitis. You can go to tylerscoffees.com. We're doing a 2020 Tyler 2020, all lowercase, 20% off. And you can go to Amazon, Walmart, Amazon CA. I actually sent you the link.
Yes. And I will post that in the chat there.
Yeah, and you guys can try the coffee. And I'll tell you, don't take my word for it. Go look online. There's over 1,000 reviews, 5 stars. Google, we're on Yelp, we're on Facebook. It's a good product. So I do want to just put that out there that
Please.
this is a product that you guys would definitely benefit from if there is stomach related issues that you have.
Even if not, I imagine, like I am
Oh, of
assuming this
course.
coffee is delicious regardless.
It is stunningly delicious, but we cater to a very specific market. I mean,
Yeah.
look, Tom Hortons is like something you don't talk
Tim.
about, right? Sorry, Tim. Thank you. God, wow, really dropped the ball on that one. No, Tim Hortons is a real staple in Canada. People love Tim Hortons, and so I understand that Tim Hortons has a lot of press behind it, and I respect it, but there is a coffee out there in the industry that is very smooth, very flavorful. Yeah.
So if people want to learn more about that, they go to Tyler's Coffees with a plural
.com.
dot
Yeah.
com. And then you said there was like I can't remember the legal definition for it in the States, but like some charity or contributory like company. Is there something where people can learn more about that as well?
Yeah, the Beacon Foundation.
The Beacon Foundation. Awesome. And
Yeah.
is that the website too, the
Yeah,
beaconfoundation.com?
I believe it is the beaconfoundation.com.
Awesome. And that's something you also started.
No, I didn't start it. What we do is we support it. So they do
Okay,
all
got
our
it.
fulfillment. I wish I could say I started it, but I didn't. Beacon Group. I'm sorry.
The Beacon Group.
.org.
Beacongroup.org. Awesome.
Yeah.
So
They're a great
tylerscoffees.com.
company.
Yeah, and the beacongroup.org. Cool. Anything else you want to plug?
Oh, I am coming out with a book. It's
What's that going to be about?
It's going to be about my life. It's kind of like a memoirs, and it's getting ghostwritten. But the thing is it's kind of been pulling teeth because I really don't like to read. I like reading articles,
Right.
but I can't read books. It makes me fall asleep. It's like a sleeping pill. I listen. Now, hold on. I listen to books online all the time.
Yeah.
I've listened to so many books. I love listening to books. It's my favorite way of it. I can listen to this while I fall asleep and I wake up and I feel like I've already read. So I love listening. Listening to books is my favorite thing to do. Actually, I enjoy it immensely and I do hours on it. The point is I am coming out with a book. It's been a long time coming. It's been about a 2-year process. My ghostwriter wants to punch me in the face, but that's okay. Yeah, it's about my struggles and tribulations and what I think a lot of entrepreneurs go through.
What is it going to be called? Do you know?
It's going to be called Tyler's Coffee. That's what they want to call it. But they want to call it Tyler's Coffee, written by Tyler Ornstein. So whatever.
Got it. One of my books just got published the Amazon link came out just yesterday, I think. And there's another one I've been publishing, and it's interesting. I'm finding writing much easier than the publishing process. So I can appreciate when you share, it's like pulling teeth. It really can feel like, oh my goodness, like I'm birthing something here.
Yeah. I have a lot more fun building businesses than writing books.
Yeah, totally. Tyler, may I acknowledge you?
You may, sir.
Sweet. So, man, I really honor your first of all your brilliance. It's really like present for me, just even in your vocabulary, the way you think about things, it's clear that you're someone who puts a lot of thought into everything that's been spoken. And it's not necessarily that you're thinking about it as you're speaking it, just that like you're a man who thinks a lot, who's got like a lot of who's very thoughtful, thinks about the world around him and himself. Thanks. Second, I really I want to acknowledge the joy that I'm present to in you. And it's subtle. I can feel it like peak up above the surface from time to time. And there's a part of you that I imagine would just be hilarious to sit in a bar and have a beer with and shoot the shit and talk about like what's going on. And so, I acknowledge you for that too. And the combination of your joy and brilliance is really like it's a charming and delightful thing. And then finally, you're welcome. And I really acknowledge you for your, there's two other things that I'm present to. One is your passion. And it's cool because those of us with brilliance have the nerd gene and those of us with passion have the geek gene. And I get, you've got both of those too. Right. And I appreciate your willingness to share about what you're passionate about. For me, sometimes I can have this story like, fuck, am I telling people too much about the shampoo I just found out about? And like reading them the ingredients, they're like, Adam, it's great. You love that, but
that's why we get along so well, man. I look at everything I put in my body. I read everything and I Google it and I go, like, oh, hell no.
Yeah. And so the last thing I really want to acknowledge you for is your courage. Thanks for being game to come and be in this conversation with me. Yeah, thanks for being up to like run towards the fear. Thanks just for everything that you're doing and for sharing your story. It's been a treat to get to be with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And same to you, man. I really enjoy when a lot of, like I said, a lot of podcasters, they like to live on the surface level, and that's fine. I respect that. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but diving deep is also really enjoyable. And at the beginning of this off air, I was like, how the hell do you keep interest after 90 minutes? But I get it, because it's kind of just this ongoing, how do we make okay, so how do we take that compartmentalization of a saying or an adjective or an adverb, an idea, a concept, or creation, or whatever, and how do we kind of build into that, get to the nano level? And it's really hard for people to do that, because usually it goes. So whoever is listening and whoever is your listening-ship or viewership, props to them, because I bet they're kicking ass.
Thanks for that. Okay, cool. Well, we're going to wind down. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. If you're listening on the podcast, thanks for listening. Definitely check out tylerscoffees.com and check out the beacongroup.org. But go buy coffee from Tyler, and have an amazing weekend, everyone. See ya.
Cheers.